So again, thank you for all the love, and I want to welcome you guys back to another episode of the Afterthought podcast with me, your host, Derek Daniels. I appreciate you guys, man, and just to start this off, man, the feedback from you guys has given me um like the energy and the want to give more content and to put out more content and to do more podcasts in the hopes that I am helping someone. Um, I know I'm helping myself, but I can see that from your feedback that I do help others, and I just again want to say thank you before we start this podcast. So this is going to be kind of like a two-parter. The first part, um, I like to do the bad news first, right? Before I give the good news. Give you something to look forward to. So, what I want to talk about today, and this has been happening to me, or things that have happened to me, or things that I've realized in the past few years that I wanted to talk about, and maybe possibly it can help someone else out as well. So today I want to talk about 5 things that negatively affected or altered my mental health in the past few years that I've been dealing with my mental health. All right. So you hear a lot about, you know, people saying they're depressed, people, not wanting to talk to a therapist, not wanting to talk to anybody just because of cultural differences or, just, I can speak for black men because I'm a black man, but, we were raised, not to cry, right? We were told you better not cry, right? You try to discuss feelings and I grew up with a single mom. So my mom played the male because she didn't have one around, right? My dad died when I was 3. It was in the 80s. Drug use. He loved my mom to death. My mom said he was the best person in the world until he started using drugs. So she obviously left that situation immediately, and well, not immediately, but when she had enough. And with that, my mom took on the role not of being my dad, but took on the role of being a provider and being a protector, which usually us as men are supposed to take that crown. So when you have a woman who is focusing on how are me and my kids going to eat, a roof over our heads, clothes on our backs, the motherly love, not saying it goes away, but it's put on the back burner, right? Like, because now it's survival time. I didn't understand that when I was a kid. I understand it now as a grown man, that she was in survival mode, but I digress. So I'm talking about 5 things that negatively impacted or altered my mental health. And the very first one that I can think of that I want to talk about is complaining, right? How many times have you complained about your situation? How many times have you complained about where you are in life? How many times have you complained that you've got the raw end of the deal? That you got the short end of the stick, I guess that's what they say, right? How many times have we complained about that? This morning I decided to go drive. I couldn't sleep last night, so this morning I got up and decided to just go drive. And I'm in Baltimore City. I don't live in the city, but I drove to Baltimore City, kind of to watch the sun come up. And I see homeless people everywhere, right? And they're sleeping on benches. They're sleeping on concrete. They're sleeping wherever they can rest their head. That's where they're sleeping. And as I'm driving, I'm thinking to myself, dang, I was just complaining that my rent is almost $2,000, right? Because they went up due to inflation. And I'm thinking like, dang, my rent's almost $2,000, right? And sometimes I complain, but I catch myself because I know that it's happening. Like I've been working on myself. I go to therapy and things of that nature. But I had to catch myself this morning as I'm driving. Like I'm frustrated because I couldn't sleep. I just got a raise at my job, like a nice raise, right? And I'm complaining that the rent is freaking $2,000. Like in my mind, I'm thinking to myself, like, man, this is crazy. I just had to pay it, and I got to pay it again in a couple weeks. And I'm like, man, this is crazy. You know, they added trash to it, and right? I'm complaining. And as I'm driving, I'm seeing these people, these homeless people, with just a bag, right? A bag, maybe a blanket, right? If they have a blanket, clothes that probably hasn't been washed for months, sneakers that don't fit their feet, shoes that don't fit their feet, and it dawned on me immediately, like, who the hell are you to complain? Like really, who do you think you are to complain? There are people out here that have way less. And I have food on the table every night. I have electricity going, right? I can stream a movie. The AC is on because it's been horrific outside with the heat and just the way I don't know what's going on with like the air quality. And I'm sitting here complaining about the rent, right? It's just perspective. It's perspective. So that's one thing that that's one thing that that's one thing that messes with my mental health is complaining. We complain about the small things and not realize the big things that we have. And again, this might be a two-parter because I want to go into like the positive things that altered or helped my mental health, but complaining will keep you stuck in a place that it's very difficult to get out. So be careful of the complaining. It's okay to vent. It's okay to talk about it. It's okay to discuss it. It's okay to think about it. But understand where you are and where you came from, and understand where you could be, right? Like you could be in a worse situation than you're in. And that's not to say that people aren't in horrible situations, but you notice how the saying goes, it could always be worse. So that's number one, right? That's the first thing that I think that I know hindered or negatively altered my mental health. I complained a lot, and I don't do that anymore. Not saying I don't get caught in it, because sometimes I do, but I snap out of it really fast. The second thing that at one point really was messing up my mental health was social media, believe it or not. And I know you guys can attest to this. There are times where I never thought social media was real Never thought it was like real. Like, oh man, there's a lot of scammers. There's a lot of fake gurus and a lot of just people who don't have your best interests at heart when they're on these apps, and you got to be aware of that. Mine wasn't so much of like, oh man, I want to be where they are. Mine was more so, I got a lot on my feed. I have a lot of like videography, photography stuff, things of that nature, basketball stuff like that. The basketball stuff is entertaining. Some of it is kind of funny, but the videography stuff and the photography stuff, I watch those to get inspiration, but be careful because sometimes too much inspiration can send you into a spiral. And social media is just, I mean, this thing right here, man, it's at your fingertips, right? So social media can make you feel good, or it can make you feel awful because it sets off endorphins, right? Because you're happy, you're looking at stuff, but then you're like, man, why am I not there yet? Man, why haven't I booked that kind of client yet? Man, why am I not making that kind of money that he's making or that she's making? I've switched the lenses, which goes back to the complaining, right? I switched my lens in the sense of, man, that looks dope. Let me see if I can do that, right? Let me see if I can figure out how they did that. Let me see if I can do it better. Let me work on my craft and move at my pace. There is this saying I saw actually on social media where it says that everybody has their own race, right? Everybody's running their own race. Not everybody is going to hit their peak or their peaks, because I don't believe it's just one peak, or their peaks at the same time, right? Some might hit them earlier in life. Some might hit them midlife. Some might hit them when they're older. A lot of millionaires didn't become millionaires until they were like in their 40s, right? It's this new age group, the new age kids who are doing things different because of technology, that they're able to become millionaires. And some of them are lying to you as well. So social media was one. So I try to take a small hiatus from social media every once in a while, as you can see. Right now I'm trying to build my my YouTube channel because I want to be able to dialogue with people. I want people to, I'm hoping that the message that I'm giving can help at least one person. And you guys have been awesome again. So, I appreciate you guys. The third thing that hindered me or altered me negatively with my mental health is isolation. My friends can attest to this. They'll tell you, man, I isolate myself a lot. I just got off a phone call with one of my buddies, man, who's going through his own thing. And I didn't think to call to check on him because usually he's good. Like, usually he got ish figured out, right? Like, usually his stuff is figured out. But I forgot, I didn't forget, but we're all human, right? So whenever I used to go through things, I would isolate myself thinking that I need to figure this out, like on my own. And it's funny because in the past, I didn't just isolate myself to go to God. Like, some people isolate themselves to go to God. There are times now where I might isolate myself in hopes to get a clearer answer or response from God. Doesn't always work, right? But I try to separate myself from reality so that my spirit can like do its job and start to work, right? So, but I'm realizing that God has placed the friends that He's placed around me so that I don't have to isolate myself. when I went through my divorce, which was one of the most painful things I went through, the first thing my buddies said to me, because I didn't tell them anything. The first thing my friend said to me is, "Yo, why didn't you call me?" Well, we had the conversation, embarrassment, frustration, hurt, and this is just how I know how to handle things, right? Isolate. But when you isolate yourself, you put yourself on an island, and sometimes being by yourself with your own thoughts, man, mind's playing tricks on me, man. You ever heard that song? Your mind could play tricks on you, and you start thinking the worst case scenario. I've never been in a situation, where things have gone bad and I isolate myself and I talk positive to myself, right? It's always like, oh man, you messed up here, or you could have did this. It's a lot of guilt that I start to put on myself. We are our own biggest critic, and I got a problem, right? And I'm working on it. But I know that now me isolating myself is not a good thing, because more negativity comes out of it than positivity. I decrease, I don't increase. So I don't isolate myself when things go wrong. I call like a friend, or I call my mom, right? Or I'll reach out, or I'll pray, right? I'll talk to God. And a lot of times when I talk to God, he's the best person to talk to, man. And here's why I say that, right? When I talk to God, there's no like voices coming back to me, right? Like, he's not talking over top of me. He's not trying to figure out my issue. He's not trying to fix it. He's not trying to do anything. He's just listening. And that brings me a level of peace, knowing that, okay, I got this off my chest. I didn't need a fix. Like, I didn't need the answer. I just wanted to get this off my chest. But knowing that with God, he got me, right? Like, he's got me. So I don't worry. I just talk and I let it be. So don't isolate yourself, man. Find one person, two people that you can talk to. And don't just dump everything on them, but definitely don't isolate yourself. It will send you into a spiral. You'll start to think dark thoughts, and that's not good for anybody. All right. The fourth one, man, is just not being productive. So have you ever been in a depressive state where you don't clean your place, and you might be the most clean person that everybody knows, but it's hard for you to clean your place. It's hard for you to do day-to-day tasks. It's just difficult for you to do the things that you I'm not going to say you take for granted, but you might take for granted in the sense of, oh, I do this all the time, so it's nothing. When that happens, man, you start to lose yourself, and you bury yourself in like quicksand almost, right? The harder you try to move, or the more you try to move, the harder it is to get out of it. I'm telling you right now that if you do one thing, one small thing, it could be, I know some people who get depressed. I've had this before. I've gotten so depressed where I didn't even want to do my hygiene. Like, I didn't want to shower. I didn't want to shave. I didn't want to do any of that. I didn't want to brush my teeth. I didn't want to move. Get up and do one thing. Do one thing. So if that first thing is, okay, let me just hop in the shower because I stink, right? Let me just hop in the shower. I found that when you do one thing productive, it becomes a domino effect almost. When you do one thing productive, all of a sudden you're doing 2, 3, 4 different things productive. So let's just use the hygiene situation as an example. You shower, right? When you get out the shower, you brush your teeth, right? When you brush your teeth, You gargle or you use Listerine or whatever it is you use, right? So you just did three things that you haven't done in, let's say, 3 days because you've been in such a funk, right? Move it a step further with being productive. And I'm not talking about you got to go out and, if you're, I'm using this as an example because I love videography and photography. If you're a videographer, you ain't got to go out and make the next blockbuster movie. But if you're a person at home and you like your place clean, like most people, right, do something small. Wash the dishes, because I'm sure that's the first thing that piles up, right? Wash the dishes. Straighten up a little bit. Just a little bit. Wash a load of laundry. Those kind of things are what I mean by being productive. I'm not saying you got to go out here and do something like huge, something that's like, crazy out of this world. Go to the store and grab your favorite food, right? Your favorite snack, your favorite drink, right? I don't mean alcohol. I don't want you doing alcohol while you're going through this, okay? But like your favorite, you might have a favorite Olipop. You guys ever had Olipops? Listen, Olipop root beer, like, changed my life. But just go out and try small things. Be productive, and I guarantee you that you'll feel a difference in kind of like your depression lifting. And I don't know if you know, the sun is fantastic for removing depression. I don't know if you know that. But just being productive and trying to find something, just do one or two things at a time and see how you feel after that, right? So not being productive is another one that hinders or that impacts you negatively when you're dealing with your mental health. And the last one, man, is guilt. Okay? Listen. Guilt will kill you. I'm going to say it again. Guilt will kill you. I held on to so much guilt from my marriage that I believe that brought me deeper into my depression, where I didn't want to be here anymore. Now, this is me being transparent, man. And I know I've said this in a podcast before, but I didn't want to be here because of the guilt. Because of the guilt. What I would encourage you to do, if you're in that space right now where you're dealing with guilt, is to contact a therapist. See when you can get a therapist, and it's hard because when you need a therapist most, they're booked for 2-3 months. They do have hotlines you can call to talk, but definitely make the appointment with the therapist. Talk to the therapist. Don't go talk to your homeboy. I mean, if you need to, that's fine. Don't go talk to your best friend, your mom, your girlfriend, your wife. And I'm not saying you can't talk to them. But if you're in this place where guilt is starting to eat you alive, you need to go talk to a therapist. You need to talk to someone who doesn't know you, who is not biased, and that professionally this is what they get paid to do, right? Because when you're dealing with guilt, man, I feel like I feel like guilt is the worst you can deal with. I'll take stress. I'll take frustration. I'll take a little bit of depression. But guilt, man, guilt will knock you off your behind. Guilt will have you feeling, it'll have you feeling this big, like this big. No matter what you do, no matter how much you do, no matter how much you change, guilt is one of those things. Guilt is like the crabs in the barrel. It doesn't matter how high you get to the top of the barrel. It doesn't matter what you've done. It doesn't matter how much you've apologized. It doesn't matter if you've changed. It doesn't matter if you've grown, if you've matured. It doesn't matter. Guilt will stay there if you don't deal with it. So, these are my 5 things that really messed me up when it came to my mental health. It messed me up. And I hope that me talking about it will give you some insight, hopefully, on what you should not do, right? Or, I do this for awareness, right? To talk about it. Us men, we don't talk about this enough. And to the women, I appreciate you as well who are here. And if you have, I'm sure you have a man in your life, whether it be brother, uncle, father, husband, boyfriend, son. Give us the space. And I don't mean space like leave us alone, but give us a safe space to be able to talk to you openly. Because if that doesn't happen, if that man in your life, again, uncle, brother, cousin, son, husband, boyfriend, whatever, if that man comes to you and he's open with you, which we're usually not as men, we're not vulnerable, and that man comes to you and he opens up to you, just listen. Make sure it's a safe space for him. And then help him get the help that he needs. It's not going to be you, unfortunately. But that's a good thing. That'd be too much to put on your shoulders. So help him get help if he wants it. But when he comes to you and talk, please be a safe space for him. Listen, I hope that this helped someone, and I hope that this reached someone who needed to hear it. I want to thank you guys again for rocking with me, man, for listening, for just being here, for subscribing. Please, if you find this, valuable. If you find this content valuable, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the thumbs up so that it can reach more people. I thank you guys. I thank you guys for listening. I thank you guys for making this a safe space for me. Till the next time, this is the Afterthought Podcast with me, your host, Derek Daniels. I appreciate you guys. Tell somebody you love them. Call them. I don't care who they are. You might not talk to them in a while. They might be sitting right next to you. Tell somebody you love them. Till the next time, I'll see you guys later. Peace.